Hello to anyone currently listening. On today's podcast, I will be going over Chapter 1 and 2 of Essential Communication, the second edition. I'll be going over the results and answers for both chapters and the quizzes that were left to answer. During the first chapter, I was able to learn all about communication and the different ways that they can be useful. Obviously, I knew that communication was talking to others, but I didn't realize that there were many terms and mediums that are used and talked about. And this chapter went over mass communication, public, organizational. It even gave useful tips for communicating on social media, which is a huge thing, especially now. After talking and looking throughout the book, I ended up taking the first quiz on chapter 1. And it ended up telling me what type of communicator that I was. I learned that I'm a tactful communicator, which basically means I can balance assertiveness and good listening skills. I was surprised because I never thought I would be considered assertive. I have a huge fear of confrontation, and I've never been described as assertive. So anything with that kind of thing, I just didn't think that would be me. But I like the fact that I am a tactful communicator. I enjoyed all the questions in the first chapter because I was actually able to reflect on who I am and how to be a skillful communicator, and also how noisy I am, which is like communicating with others. But chapter 2, on the other hand, talked about points of emotional intelligence and identity management. This was the first textbook that I read in a while that I felt relatable to events that were happening in today's time. I really enjoyed learning about my own emotional intelligence and the identity management, which includes social media and how those factors can correlate with social media. A part of the chapter even went on and talked about social media and about how that can reflect your self-esteem and how self-esteem can enhance emotional resilience, which makes sense because if you have high self-esteem, you're able to believe that others, when they compliment you, and you're not just thinking that they're making things up, or you actually think that about yourself because you have the high self-esteem. In this chapter, when reading about sex and gender roles, I could see others judging the book because of the negative view that some people have on things like pronouns and gender and sex and all that. But I liked being able to read the facts from the textbook, and how gender and sex are different. And chapter 2's quiz was on my own emotional intelligence, which after taking that, I found that I was known to be what is called a champion, which means that I balance my awareness and my own emotions with concern on how others feel. I would say that this is true, and I like that part of myself that thinks about how others feels and wants to understand their feelings. But I also know that I need to work on myself and be able to understand my own feelings and communicate myself, because I feel like that's also a big problem that I have with confrontation and things like that. But yeah, so far chapter 2 and chapter 1 were both really, really good reads.